You know, there was a time when the two things that none of us would leave home without were this, a wallet, and this, keys, car keys, house keys. Now there's a third thing that we won't leave home without, and that is a smartphone. But whether it's a smartphone or a tablet or a laptop or a desktop, the 21st century lifeline for all of us has become being connected to the internet. And if you're not connected to the internet, and especially if you're a business, well, you're going to want to watch the next 30 minutes because we're going to be talking about how being connected can help win you more customers. I'm Bruce Apar, and this is Bruce Mishkin, and you're watching Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog is brought to you by Pinpoint Marketing and Design. And we like to discuss ideas and topics and issues that affect all of us and that are important to all of us, especially in the digital age, whether you're a shopper or a business owner or both, because everybody's a shopper, right? We're going to be bringing you a lot of good ideas and insights that will help your business and will help win you more customers. Or even if you're a shopper, will help you shop more efficiently and effectively. And so Bruce Mishkin and myself are the co-hosts of the program. We're also business partners in Pinpoint Marketing and Design. And so, Bruce, so a lot of people have smartphones now, obviously, although every so often you see somebody with a flip phone, which is okay. You know, I think eventually every phone will be a smartphone, right? And so what is it about smartphones that, you know, in your very extensive experience, you know, is changing the way people shop and also changing the way businesses have to attract customers, right? I mean,
right. Well, you're talking about a situation in which now everybody who has a smartphone has the ability to carry a computer with them in their pocket.
Which is the smartphone.
Which is the smartphone. Right. And if anybody remembers, years ago we used to talk about pocket computers.
Yeah.
And they did arrive, and they arrived in 2007 with the introduction of the iPhone from Apple. And what's so interesting is it seems like smartphones have always been with us, but it's only 9 years.
Yeah, it's true. That's a good point.
And even if you can watch a movie or a television show from 2 years ago, and people do not have smartphones.
Wow.
And now, just 2 years later, that's how quickly not just the country, but the world has adapted to the smartphone, to the extent that the smartphone is considered the most quickly adopted consumer electronics product in the history of the consumer electronics industry.
Well, and of course you and I go back a long ways with consumer electronics, right, with back to the introduction of the VCR, right? Which also was pretty quickly adopted, along with video games, and but nothing, as you're saying, nothing in terms of the utility and the versatility and the profound influence it has in our lives compares to a smartphone. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And the one thing about whether, again, we're not just going to be talking about smartphones. You know, it applies to, as I said at the top of the program, desktop laptops, tablets now, which are also really beginning to proliferate. That the one thing they all have in common is that magic word, Google, right?
Well, yeah, Google. I like to think of BG and AG before Google and after Google.
Right.
And
so I know you're really good with the, as you already demonstrated, with the history of these things. So when did Google really start?
Google started up in 1998.
Right. So it's been, what, 18 years?
It's about 18 years.
Which, by the way, is almost a generation.
Right.
Yeah.
But Google started in 1998, and I don't know if anyone recalls this, but the idea of with that screen with a lot of white space, and then a Google logo, and then the search box, and then the "I'm feeling lucky" button. That still appears in the Google search page, but everybody was taken by the Spartan look of the Google interface at the time, because you had Yahoo with search, you had Alta Vista, you could do searches on any number of sites, but nobody cracked the code of search.
Right.
Like Google did.
Right.
So it changed everything. One thing it changed was the telephone book publishing industry.
Right.
And it took some time.
Right.
It took a few
things
years.
like the Yellow Pages.
But like the Yellow Pages. These days, people naturally turn to Google to get answers for whatever problem they need solved. And the problem can be, what time is a movie starting at the movie theater? Or it can be, I'm getting a divorce, I'm looking for an attorney. I need to buy socks. I go to an e-commerce site. Google is responsible these days for sending about 70% of what's called website traffic
Yes.
to websites. What that means is that 70% of people who are looking for something online go to Google first, and then after Google shows them what are called their search results, people can choose and click on the results and hopefully find what they're looking for. And Google, over the years, has gotten better and better and better at giving people just what they want.
Yeah, no, that's really true. I mean, I found you come to the realization it's not like you study this. It's a reflex. Google, I find it's like a reflex to go to Google. But I've noticed, as you're saying, Bruce, that no matter what words you type in, the results are more narrow now, right?
The results are all there. I think what you find is that the relevance to what you're searching for is much finer than it was back then. If you go back 10 or 15 years and you went on Google or Yahoo, there wasn't a Bing at the time, but if you went on Google or Yahoo to search for something, very often there would be a lot of irrelevant results. There were also people at the time who were very active in trying to do everything they could to spam Google, to game the system, to get around Google's algorithm, which is their formula for the results.
So you're saying companies were doing this to come up high on Google.
Yeah, it was called black hat.
Black hat.
Black hat techniques, and there's white hat, which is plain.
The good guys.
Playing according to the rules.
Black hat, the bad guys. White hat, the good guys.
And black hat was doing devious methods to try to fool Google into thinking that your website or the content of your website was something other than what it really was.
That it was a lot better than it was.
That it was a lot better. And to this day, Google has a tremendous problem with people that are trying to spam their system, and they have a web spam department, and every day, automatically and manually, they are trying to stay ahead of these people who try to try to fool Google.
So you're saying, though, that some of the black hat businesses succeed?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day, Google is fighting to keep up with it.
And yes.
Yeah. For instance, there might be a business that serves an area of 15 miles or 20 miles radius, and that business only has one location.
Right.
Well, what they do is they submit multiple locations for their business.
Even though they don't exist.
Even though they don't exist, or there could be sort of like a proxy building there with no occupants or whatever it might be. And what they will do is they will try to push through many locations so people will think that there is a location of that business in my town.
Right.
And it happens all the time. There was an article in the New York Times a couple of weeks ago about locksmiths. And there are many, many spam sites that have gotten onto Google listing addresses that don't exist. And using bait and switch tactics to capture people who lost their keys, and they'll say $35, right?
Right.
For
So you think, as the consumer, that there's a locksmith right near you.
you'll think there's a locksmith right near you.
And what happens when you call?
And what happens is very often there'll be an 800 number or a 609 number, but these numbers will redirect to some central call center or office.
And
then what happens is very often they'll send somebody out. They have people that they've lined up, but this is all, here's where the scam is. They may tell you $35, but when they show up, you're stuck. You have no keys.
So these are real locksmiths.
These are real locksmiths, or they're people who are trained to be locksmiths. Okay,
right. Just not honest.
But they're not honest. Yeah. But what happens is they show up. You locked yourself out of your car. All of a sudden, that $35 turned into $185 or $250 to get you back into your car.
Right.
And that's what's happened. That's just one example. For the most part, honesty rules,
yes,
and ethics rule.
Right, or should, anyhow.
Or should, yeah.
Right.
But there are certain industries, like locksmithing, that have taken advantage of ways to get around Google's rules.
Right. So that somewhat conveniently leads into the next part of our discussion, which is, so how does a legitimate business who is honest and ethical begin to try to come up higher when somebody is searching for their product?
Right. Well, there are a number of ways to do it. There are actually, you could look at a Google page in 3 sections.
Yeah.
On the top of the page, and I don't have a demonstration
in future
here,
shows we could show.
But you've seen it before. On the top of the page, you usually see a few ads on the top on the top of the results. Those are ads. On the right-hand side, those are ads. Then below the ads on top, depending on the type of business it is, they will show the businesses in the business category that you're looking for. Let's say hairstylist.
Right.
You put in hairstylist. You don't have to put the name of your town because Google knows your IP address, so they know where you're located.
But it used to be, didn't you used to have to do that?
Not really.
No?
People thought they had
right.
to do it, and that's diminished. A lot of people will put hairstylist, Briarcliff Manor, New York, but you don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
Except, let's say that you live in California and you're visiting your sister in Briarcliff Manor, or your relatives.
So you're saying before you get there.
Before you get there, and you know you're going to need a haircut.
Right.
You can, if you search for hairstylists or haircutters, Briarcliff Manor, New York, and you're living in California, it will show you a few of the haircutters in Briarcliff Manor. But if you lived in California and just put haircutter, you'd get the people who are closest to you.
Right.
So in order to get into those results, you've got to follow certain rules. And a lot of people, you've probably heard the term SEO.
Yes.
Which stands for search engine optimization.
Right.
And SEO is a strange thing. It's a very, very complex procedure, and it's an ongoing procedure. But a lot of people say, could you please SEO my site? And what they're really saying is, can you get me to number 1 or 2 or 3 on Google? And it's not a thing that can be accomplished that easily.
Right. Although, as we both know, and anybody who has email, I'm sure gets the same kind of spam, really. There's a lot of hucksters out there who will promise that they can make you number 1 on Google.
That happens a lot, and I don't know how many business people are watching this show, but many business people have been ripped off.
Yeah.
I guess that's the only word I can use.
Victimized. Yeah.
By people making promises that they could never keep. An early example was that a company would say that they can help your business become number 1 on Google.
Right.
They didn't do anything, and then after, let's say, a 6-week period, they tell their client, go on Google and type in the name of your business.
Right.
In the search box, and then hit return, and oh my God, I'm number 1. Well, of course, if you put your business's name in Google search box, it's going to come up, but it didn't come up for anything else.
Right.
So some of that stuff existed, and there are people out there, and I've dealt with our own clients. There are people that have dealt with people making promises they absolutely could not keep, or they were simply unethical and violated Google's rules. What are Google's rules? Number one, you've got to have if you want to get in those local results, unpaid results.
Right. The organic, so-called, right.
The organic results or natural results, as opposed to the ads, you have to follow a procedure. And the procedure is to make sure that your business is properly listed, not just with Google, but on scores or hundreds of websites that are sort of like directories. So for instance, it might be YP, yellowpages.com.
Right.
You should be in Merchant Circle. You should be on Yelp.
Right.
You should be on Foursquare. You should be on a lot of the sites that people use, directory sites that have to do with local businesses.
Or maybe a Chamber of Commerce site, right?
Or a Chamber of Commerce sites, but there are directories. If you're an attorney, there's a website called Avo, which is a legal website.
Right.
And you want to make sure that your business is listed on Avo, and that you've claimed your listing. That's a really important thing.
Yes.
If you're listed on a website or on Google, and if it says is this your business? Claim it, or something to that effect.
Yes, I've seen that. Yeah.
Okay, that means that Google is showing you information that they have, but they're really not sure whether it's correct.
Right.
Now, you may have encountered a situation where you saw a listing and you called the phone number and you heard the magic sound of a fax machine.
Right.
They listed their fax number. Nobody took time to correct it, change it, or anything. Maybe a lot of people didn't even know that they were listed on Google.
Yeah, so Google in that case basically bought a list, right, of businesses, and
that's right.
And then populated their site with the list.
When they initially realized back in 2002, 2003 that a lot of people were looking for local information and local businesses.
Right.
Google made a great effort in the local area to give people good local results that were relevant to their needs and that were close by. And they've succeeded. And again, I mentioned the Yellow Pages, the print Yellow Pages earlier. It's this thick.
Right.
It used to be this thick.
It used to be that thick, yes.
You got to go where the eyeballs are, and people are going on their computers or their phones or their tablets. They're going to Google to get a problem solved or a question answered. So to get on Google, the ideal thing that you can do is, and you can do it yourself, but it's an arduous process.
Yes.
Is to make sure that your company is properly listed on what are called business data aggregation sites. That would be companies like Axiom, which is really a database of consumer and business information.
Yes. AXIOM. Right?
It's AXCIOM.
Oh, AXCIOM.
M as in Mary.
Right. Okay.
There's another one called Neustar, Neustar. And by the way, I should mention NEU.
U, not W. NEU.
Right, NEUSTAR.
Yeah, right.
And there's another one called Info Group.
Right.
And if you're in business, you may have gotten
Contacted.
direct mail or contacted by a company called Info USA that sold mailing lists and stuff like that. It's the same company. They're called Info Group. And with Info Group, you can check to see if your business is in their database. You have to register, you have to sign up with an account. So they may have your business and you look and go, oh my God, that's my old business address. I moved 5 years ago.
Right.
Okay. So what you have to do is go to, there's one more of these aggregator sites, and that's called Factual,
right.
Factual. And they're either going to have your information or not. And you go in there and you sign up and register. They verify that you are who you are, and then you're able to edit your information and submit it and correct it. So let's say they have your fax number and not your phone number, or they have your phone number listed as your fax number, or your email addresses or your business address is wrong. You can correct that. So the first thing to do is to go to these sites and claim your business.
Right.
Okay?
Right. But as you're saying, it's important to remind people that you have to basically manually enter all this information.
You do, and I will say there are companies that can handle this for you.
Right.
Some of them are good, some of them are not as good, some of them are very good.
Right.
But even so, if I were submitting information, and I should just backtrack a little bit. It's best to submit your information to Google about your business after you've set the foundation for your business on other websites.
Okay.
Because what these other websites like YP.com super pages,
Right.
Yahoo search, Bing has local results, Yahoo has local results. What happens is you've got to be on all of these directories so that Google can look at them when you submit to Google and they see that your business information is consistent across the board. What they're looking for are what's called in the search industry citations, C-I-T,
Right.
citations.
Right.
And it really means where your business is cited or mentioned or shown on the web. And so what Google does, and there isn't a person on Google that's looking around, but what Google does is see how many citations you have.
You mean like third party?
Third party.
Right.
Where else is your business listed? And is the information consistent?
Right.
So
you're saying, so I guess that's one of their safeguards for avoiding like fly-by-night businesses.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
And there's something called NAP, which is an acronym, which
Acronym? Yeah.
an acronym, yes, that stands for name, address, phone number. And you have to have NAP consistency.
Right.
Even to the point that if you're at 123 Main Street in Yorktown Heights, let's say, then your listing should either say Main, S-T-R-E-E-T, or S-T, and on every site you should be listed the same.
Right.
If you're listed as Yorktown Heights, don't do Yorktown HGTS somewhere else.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, so it has to be that precise.
That precise.
Right.
They're looking for that consistency. You're just better off by keeping consistent. With Google, there's a product, a digital product, called Google My Business.
Right.
Google My Business, and you can just go on Google and type in Google My Business, and you'll find when you get there that Google provides a means for every business to control how they appear on the web. Not where they appear, but how they appear.
Okay.
And with Google My Business, you're given, essentially, it's an online form that you have to fill out. You can upload photos. When you see some of these results, you've seen the inside of a restaurant or whatever it might be, or the parking lot.
Yep.
These pictures are uploaded by the business.
Right.
And you can upload up to 10 pictures and up to 5 videos. So if you want to show a video on there, theoretically, you can do that. The more robust your information is, the better chance you have of getting onto that first page, but it's so much more than that.
And isn't it also true that, I mean, number one, Google owns YouTube,
Right.
and that a video is much more likely to be found by the person searching.
Right. Google favors not just video content, but all original content.
Okay.
Anything that's new or different and would be of interest to people. Google likes that. They don't like if you copy words from another website. You're going to be in trouble with Google if you start doing things like that.
Right.
Or if you're making claims that you can't live up to, you're eventually going to get in trouble. And believe me, Google has the power to delist you or to punish you, so to speak, by if they find out that you're trying to play against the rules.
It's like the stock exchange, right?
In the last several months, Google used to list on their first results page usually 7 local businesses.
Right.
In some cases, 3. And they called it the 7-pack and the 3-pack. And they had the map next to them, and there's a little pinpoints.
Yes.
One of the reasons for our company's name is
Pinpoint.
so that we can pinpoint
Right.
your customers, we can pinpoint businesses,
Right.
we can pinpoint problems, etc. But those are the local listings. Now Google has gone to a new format where they're only showing 3 businesses in those local
So it's the
listings.
3-pack, right?
It's a 3-pack, but in the, let's say, 6 months ago, up until say 6 months ago, they only showed 3 or 7.
Right.
Now they show 3, but there's a little arrow that will let you see more.
Right.
And those listings can go on for pages and pages and pages.
And we should just clarify for people that, of course, anybody who's ever looked at a Google results or search page, results page really, will know that there's a lot of listings, but what you're talking about are the featured, right, businesses. They're featured, because they have the additional information that's visible.
They're featured only because it's only them. And the idea, if you're a business, and let's say you're a dentist or a doctor or, again, a hair cutter or a landscaping or a roofing contractor or whatever it might be, and people are looking for your services on Google, obviously you want to be prominently featured on that page.
Right.
But what you must understand is that in order for you to be on that page, you have to dislodge, essentially,
somebody else, right?
The company or the competitor of yours that is already there. So if you're a dentist, and there are a lot of dentists in town, understand Google's only going to put 3. I mean, there might be 10 dentists in your town. Google's only put 3. And yes, you can look for more, but people's tendency is to not go past what they see. And also, emotionally, they may think, well, if Google's showing them on the first page, they must be
It's like
the
an
best.
endorsement.
It's almost like an endorsement.
Right.
So it's a long, or it can be, a long and arduous process.
And we should also clarify, Bruce, that these listings you're talking about, the 3-pack, they didn't pay to be there, right?
No.
They did not pay to be there.
No, but in many cases, businesses have paid people
to get them there.
To get them there to varying degrees of success.
So this, unlike, let's say, a print advertisement, the space itself is not what you're paying for. You're paying somebody to figure out how you're going to be featured.
You can buy space, so to speak, from Google
on the right side,
in their advertising section,
right.
But you cannot dictate where Google is going to put your featured listing.
Right.
That's up to Google.
Right.
So the most important things, number one, is have a good website.
Yes, which we'll be talking about in future shows.
Right. Have a professional website. Have your phone number on the website. Have your hours and all of that kind of stuff. Also, when you're submitting information to Google My Business, put your hours in there. Put what credit cards you accept, because Google will show that. If you're a restaurant, what your hours are, or maybe the open table.
And your phone number, please.
Right.
Because amazingly, some businesses don't even put their phone number.
Things are a lot better than they used to be. Again, in the past, you couldn't. You took pains to find somebody's phone number. But the most important thing is to have a really professional website and to think about your customers, not you. So on your website, it's not about saying what you want to say, but the potential customer or client,
what they want to hear,
what they need to hear.
Right, what they need to hear.
So relevance is very important. How are you relevant to what somebody is searching for?
No, that's great. And on that note, we're going to be talking about a lot of these topics in more detail, right, in subsequent shows. And we should just note as we go forward that, a really important point to remember that I know Bruce makes a lot, and he's definitely hammered it into my head, and that Pinpoint Marketing obviously advocates for its clients, is that a great-looking website is not the only criterion of whether the website's working for you.
Right.
But we'll talk more about that. And by the way, if you have a business and you'd like to come on the show, please contact us. The information is on the screen. And then even on the show itself, we can talk about maybe how your business can do better, how it can perform better. So, on behalf of Bruce Mishkin and myself, Bruce Apar, thanks for watching Hudson Valley WXYZ with Bruce the Blog. And